I don't ever want to hear Babe Ruth's name again. Shohei Ohtani arguably just had the greatest single season a player has ever had in the history of baseball. Bro just got paid $700 million and said, all right, I'm going to show you guys exactly why I'm worth every single last penny. And if this is what bro had in store for 2024, I'm going to explain exactly why in 2025, it could get even scarier. That and more coming up on the Vance Barnes Show. Man, what is up? What is up? You already know what it is, man. Welcome to another episode of the Vance Barnes Show. I am him. He is me, Glitch in the Matrix, your host, Vance Barnes. I appreciate you tapping in with me. From the moment Shohei Ohtani stepped off that plane, from the moment he booked his flight and stepped off that plane coming all the way from Japan and stepped foot on American soil to play the game of baseball, the Babe Ruth comparisons have been nonstop. And how do you compare a player to a guy who played over 100 years ago? I mean, a full century. The world was an absolute different place, let alone athletics in the game of baseball. No television, no color TV. You were reading in stats in papers and newspapers. The world was just so different. How do we compare a player in 2024 to a guy who came into the league in the 1910s? But it proved to be a great comparison. Because just like Ruth, Otani has came into the MLB and he has done nothing but have a huge impact on the sport of baseball as a whole. Two players, Babe and Shohei, who at times do things on the diamond that seem larger than life. Both having iconic moments. I mean, we don't know, just like Wilt in the 100-point game is so long ago, but we know and heard about Ruth's calling his shots. We've read all the great things that he has done. I mean, Shohei had his moment this year where he had arguably the greatest game a baseball player has ever had. 6 for 6. I think he had 2 homers, a grand slam, all while stealing his 50th base of the season or 40th base of the season and joining the 40-40 club. Right? They do these things that make them seem larger than life and larger than the game itself. And I'm going to explain exactly why down the road the MLB, that's exactly what the MLB doesn't want. But before I get there, I'm here to say that I'm done with the comparisons. I'm over it. I never want to hear Babe Ruth and Shohei Ohtani be brought up in the same conversation again. Because in my mind, and in a lot of baseball fans' minds today that live in the modern world of like, oh, it's 2024 now, we know that it's not even close, right? We can just look at past time, science, whatever you want to look at, it's not even close between the two players. Otani came into this league, right? And it was extremely evident from the jump, off rip, that the moment he stepped foot on an MLB diamond, that, oh, this dude is different. This cat is a different breed, and seemed like he was made in a lab. Very few players in any sport, at any level, especially the professional level, can come into their respective league with the amount of expectations that Shohei did and not only meet expectations, but exceed them as well. Live up to the hype and exceed it. We saw it with LeBron James. LeBron came into the league, into the NBA with more hype and more expectations than any player in the history of sports, and he smashed them all. Shohei Ohtani is on his way to doing the exact same thing. And year in and year out, he only seems to get better. He takes an aspect of his game, and it's like right when you think, oh, this guy can't get any better. Right when you think this guy can't amaze us any more than he already has, he gets even better. And he does something that just blows our minds, and he's improving year in and year out. Now, in 2024, reaching heights and playing at a level that we've never seen a player reach. We've never seen a guy do some of the things that Shohei has done, and that's why I believe we can no longer put him in the same conversation as Babe Ruth, because there's just levels to it. Forget the 100-year century time gap. Forget that, the two-way player comparisons because of the two, right? We just look at the straight facts and the straight numbers and what we see from an eye test. I mean, this year he batted .310 batting average, 197 hits, 54 home runs, 130 RBIs, and 59 stolen bases, not to mention a World Series champ. Literally a league of his own. right? Like I mentioned, we forget the time gap. Babe Ruth could hit and he pitched for a little bit, and Shohei can hit and he pitched for a little bit and he might get back to it. But Babe Ruth could never run. Babe Ruth wasn't scaring you on the bases. Literally a league of his own, being the first player in the history of the MLB to hit 50 home runs and steal 50 bases in a single season. This isn't the NBA. This isn't the NFL. This league has been around for almost 150 years, right? A century and a half that the MLB has been around, and Shohei was the first player to ever do, like, if you're the first player to ever do something in a league that has been around for almost 150 years, you got to be a great player, right? And it's not like he barely hit the mark, like 50 home runs and 51 stolen bases. This dude killed it. It wasn't even close. It's 59 stolen bases, all while hitting 54 home runs. It wouldn't be a shock to me. It shouldn't be a shock to anybody else if we see in 2025 Otani go for 60 and 60, right? And if he does that, the conversation is completely over. I know I'm being a little bit biased. I know I'm being a little bit recency biased, but if we see in 2025 Otani even sniff 60 and 60 again like he did this year, the conversation's over. And it's safe to say that the 10-year, $700 million contract that they gave him and that he inked this past year has been fulfilled, right? When you sign a player to that type of money, whatever league it is, baseball, basketball, NFL, when you sign your star player to that type of bread and give him that type of money to let him be the face of your organization and lead you, you have one thing in mind and one thing only for a return on investment. And that is a world championship. When the Chiefs paid Patrick Mahomes $500 million, they said, hey, we need a Super Bowl. And he brought them back two. Job done. It's over. Wraps. The Dallas Cowboys just made Dak Prescott the highest paid player in NFL history. You know the only way he can repay them for that? Bringing them a championship. Otani, $700 million guaranteed. Now his contract is pushed back and he won't get that until till the contract is over. Smart business move by him, right? Set himself up for the future. But in the first year, he's already fulfilled what they signed him to do. Anything after this is now bonus, so he's playing with house money. He is playing with house money, and that is exactly why I believe that in 2025, we're about to see a whole different beast. I got you guys your World Series. We got our rings. Now let's play ball. But in the $700 million, right, let's not get it twisted, almost a full B. There's a reason why Bro signed the largest contract in the history of professional sports. It's not just because he was the best baseball player of this time. It's not just because he brings a lot of eyes and a lot of people to the game. It's not just because he's a great player. It's because he literally can do things in this game that nobody in the history of MLB has ever been able to do. Right? And I think if somebody would have went up to Babe Ruth in 1924, 100 years ago, if somebody would have went up to Babe Ruth and told him, hey, you're playing well, you're in the prime of your career, you just got to the Yankees, you're in the prime of your career, you're about to do amazing things and set this game on fire and be a cornerstone for this game for the next century. But over that century, a 6'4" Japanese guy will be compared to you and will come into the MLB and do exactly the same things that you are doing, but at a higher level. Babe Ruth might have had a heart attack. He might have had a heart attack, and it might not have been from all the hot dogs and beer that he consumed, right? If you would have told us that a guy would have came into the league, and not only could he throw a 100-mile-per-hour fastball, not only could he throw a 90-mile-per-hour slider, that he'd be able to just as easily hit those same pitches out of the park as well, we would have laughed at you. We would have thought the world was ending. We would have been like, who is this player? What does he look like? And it's Shohei. And he's proven us that he can do this night in and night out. And respect to all the legends of the game. Respect to the Babe Ruths, the Lou Gehrig's, the Willie Mays, even though this is like 40 years later. Respect to all the guys that have built this game, the Mickey Mantles that the MLB holds on to so dearly. But at some point, as a league, the MLB has to stop trying to hold on to those who helped build this game to let some new guys grow it. I'm going to say that again. At some point, the MLB has to stop trying to hold on to these older generation of players, these absolute icons and legends who built the foundation of this game, and let them go and let some new guys help grow it. Because Shohei is the greatest player of this generation. He is the greatest baseball player some of these kids growing up will ever see in their lifetime. And it's a shame that he's not a household name. It's a shame that he's not regarded as the greatest and biggest athlete in the world right now, simply because the MLB just won't allow it. I've been saying this for years. I've been screaming this from the rooftops to anybody who would listen, but the league and its traditionalist ways are getting in the way of the growth of just the game of baseball as a whole. They don't want to see, and they don't want any player to seem bigger than the sport or the game itself. And I get it. It's America's favorite pastime. It's the oldest professional league, and you do things your way. It's just what it is. The MLB is super conservative. They do things their way. It took them this long to get a pitch count in instant replay. But the MLB is holding themselves back tremendously by not marketing their superstars and their players the way that they should be marketed. I talked about how the MLB is extremely conservative. They saw the way that the NBA went full players mode. The NBA said, hey, we need to grow. We saw what happened with Jordan. And they went full, like, we're going to push our players to the masses. You can see their faces. There's only 15 guys on a roster. They're super marketable. We're going to push players necessarily instead of the league or the team, and it's going to help us grow as a league. And it worked. And I think the MLB was absolutely disgusted by that idea. I think Manfred and the guys who just hold on to this MLB traditionalist way couldn't have been more disgusted, and they went in the exact opposite direction because it wasn't always this way. When Ken Griffey Jr. came up, he was everywhere. He had shoes. He was everywhere. He was a household name. He was the biggest thing in sports, or one of the biggest things in sports during, the 90s. Barry Bonds. And then, we got guys like Albert Pujols and David Ortiz, and the steroid era hit, and I think that people thought baseball was going to take a major hit, and what the MLB did was, okay, we took a little bit of a chink in our armor, and now we have to double down and get even more in our conservative ways. And for the last 2 decades, we haven't seen them push anybody to be what they should be. Again, they're relying solely on the foundation that they have built over the last century, which is fine, and it got you to a certain point, and it's still working because it's not, you're not losing fans, but you're not gaining fans as well. As I watched the World Series and I watched playoff baseball, and as the very casualist of fans, right, the very casualist of fans that I am, I watch World Series baseball and I watch playoff baseball, and I say to myself, man, this is a great game that might not everybody's going to watch and sit down and look and watch for 162 games every single day, but at least follow and at least get excited and at least want to watch their biggest event, which is the World Series. Again, we've seen some of the biggest stars come through the league over the last 3 decades, right? We've seen the Derek Jeters, the Alex Rodriguez's, the David Ortiz, the Albert Pujols. We've seen all these legends and certified Hall of Famers come through the game, and at some point they're going to be forgotten because the MLB didn't do what it needed to do to market these guys. Most recently and notably being Mike Trout. Some true baseball experts consider Mike Trout to be a top 10 player of all time. Again, a league that has been around for 150 years. You got a guy who's playing currently, who is a top 10 player ever. He should be a household name. But the average fan and kids growing up playing the sport wouldn't know that. Why? Because the MLB has done nothing to market him, and they have essentially wasted his career. Imagine if people didn't know who Patrick Mahomes was outside of casual NFL fans. Wouldn't make any sense, right? Imagine if fans in the NBA didn't know who Steph Curry was, right? It's the same thing. We look at Steph Curry was to change the game of basketball with the way he shot the basketball, with the shooting from the three and making the three-point shot popular and doing all these great things. Imagine if we didn't know who Steph Curry was outside the average NBA fan. Mike Trout was a 5-tool player who could do everything on the diamond. He's marketable. He played in LA, but the MLB just wasted his whole career. And they're doing essentially the same. And they're trying to keep Otani under wraps as much as possible, but it's been impossible. He's bigger than I think they anticipated. He's bigger than I think they want, because he is 6'4", Japanese unicorn type of a player who is taking over the league. And if you are just watching sports and you're just into sports, you just can't miss it. It's just can't miss TV. But he'd be even bigger, and he should be 10 times larger than he already is. But the league continues to hold on to the legacies in the larger-than-life personas that they had 80, 90, and 100 years ago. And they're missing out on a huge opportunity for growth. And it's sad to see, because we'll never, I think at least until they change this view, we'll never see how big and how great the game can truly become. Because you've already missed out on 2 to 3 to 4 generations of guys and kids growing up that could have been playing the sport had you marketed these guys, right? Otani is another one of these guys. And in 2025, he's supposed to get back on the mound, pitching again in 2025. If I'm LA and I saw what he did solely when he focuses on himself at the plate, he might never pitch again. I'm not going to lie. And then all the Babe Ruth comparisons are going to stop completely, because your time as a two-way player is done. But the competitor that he is, the new challenges that lie ahead for him to be able to prove that he can dominate, right? He can dominate at the plate as well as pitching. I think he's going to go all in. And once his elbow gets healthy, I think he's going to go all in. And I think he cannot wait to see what the future has in store for him going forward. And I think he's going to, again, I think he's playing with house money at this point. We got our World Series title. I brought you guys a title back to LA. You guys spent all this money. We won. Now it's my time to shine. Now it's my time to show you guys really what I'm about to do and who I am. And I'm excited. I'm excited. In terms of the NBA, man, NBA season is already got a little bit of buzz, and it's early. It is early in the season, and things are starting to happen. And I said, coming off of last year was kind of boring. The finals, boring. Jason Tatum versus Luka Doncic didn't live up to any of the hype. It was extremely boring. But this year we got a little bit of excitement going on. I think ratings are down a little bit, but again, it's hard. You start this early, you're trying to compete against the NFL. You're trying to compete against playoff baseball. It's tough. And I think we're going to start seeing some more storylines, some more big performances coming out. But one of the biggest storylines that just recently happened is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid allegedly shoved a reporter after the Sixers game, threatened him, in something that we've never really seen before. That's like an automatic no-no. Like, we've always seen media and reporters and fans be able to talk to these players crazy, right? But we've never seen, to the extent, a player retaliate in the way that they're maybe justified of doing, right? Again, and the season just started. And Embiid is already fed up with the NBA media. The NBA the last couple of years has been trying to, as best as they can, crack down on player load management, because they're just tired of seeing their stars sit out in nationally televised games. They're tired of seeing their stars sit out on road trips when people pay all this money to go see a Kawhi Leonard play and he sits out. They're tired of hearing the things that Joel Embiid hasn't played in Denver in the last like 6 seasons. They're sick of it, and they want to. People pay all this money. Sponsors pay all this money. They want their stars to play in these big games. So the NBA has been cracking down on load management for the players. And Embiid himself, who has had problems with injuries in the past, has been at the top of this discussion. And especially because he started the season off by saying he probably won't play in back-to-backs for the rest of his career. Now, why he would say this, knowing that the NBA is the feds and they're listening to everything you are saying and they're going to eventually it's going to come back to you, I don't know. But hey, he said it, and now the NBA has started an investigation. They're looking into this, and things have just hit a major boiling point between Embiid and the media, because apparently a reporter that had wrote a column, and the column was talking about Embiid's load management and his want, and he's talked about how he wanted to be great for the city and be great, but he keeps being absent in games and sitting out games. And the reporter in this column, talking about his recent absences, somehow found a way to link that to Embiid's younger brother who passed away 10 years ago, and his son, who is named, I believe, after his younger brother. I'm not going to say the name. You can look it up yourself. And I think to Embiid, right, he didn't like none of that. And, we don't know what took place beforehand. We don't know what took place or led up to it, because I believe maybe he hasn't seen this reporter in the year, because I think I read that this column was written in 2023. So maybe Embiid has been holding on to this for a whole year. Maybe this reporter has been around and Embiid just finally hit his cracking point or his breaking point, and this guy asked him a question or did something he didn't like, and he shoved him. All I'm going to say is this. You got to be careful talking about people's families, and you got to be careful especially talking about people's kids. In America, there is free speech. Say whatever you want to say, but best believe there are consequences, and you have to be able to live with the response of whatever it is that you are saying to. Or you have to be ready for whatever response comes with that. You can control absolutely what you say. Again, free speech. Say whatever you want to say, but you cannot control people's responses. We just saw what happened to Jason Kelce. He's walking at game day or Penn State, and he's walking through some college tailgating or whatever he's walking through, and a guy comes up to him, phone in face, recording him, calls his brother Travis Kelce a homophobic slur for dating Taylor Swift, and he just flat out took the phone out bro's hand, smashed it on the ground, and it got quiet. And it's like, man, you just cannot just say whatever you want to say to people and expect just not a response. You can't say what you want to say to people and expect them not to respond angrily when you say something wrong. If you're talking and you're writing about people's dead brothers and you're writing about people's kids and you're mentioning them, you got to be able to take what comes with that. And this reporter, obviously, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see if he presses charges. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But again, free speech, say all you want, but you got to be able to live with the response that comes with it. And I think these media and these fans, and they get a little bit too comfortable, and they think in the social media, right, it's established, and we think we know these players, and we think we know their lives, and we get so comfortable with them, and you think you can just say whatever you want to say to people. And it's not like that. I just talked about it last week with the Mookie Betts situation, and the two Yankees fans trying to rip his glove off over the wall after he had caught a ball. And it's just like, man, if he would have reached up there and just slapped the hell out of one of those guys, he would have been justified to do so. And then what would have happened, right? It's getting to a point now we're going to see one of these professional athletes respond in a way that we've never seen before. And maybe he's going to be justified, maybe he's not. But at the same time, you just cannot continue to say things to people and not expect a response. But it just is what it is. Man, it's NFL Sunday. We got a good, interesting week this week. College football was kind of slow yesterday, so not much to get into there. But A lot of great NFL games. I think now that MLB season is officially over, the NBA is going to ramp up and continue to do what they are doing. It's going to start getting interesting. It's going to start getting cold. It's wintertime. But if you made it this far, man, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. The best marketing is still word of mouth. So please, 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 if you like this episode, tell a friend, tell a friend's friend, share it, all that good stuff. But until next time, peace.